Say hello to Vanessa Monroe, businesswoman extraordinaire. She do everything. When I saw her list of what she did, I'm like, damn, what can I get from you? Vanessa thinks that a woman cannot raise a boy to be a man. And with that, I have some questions for you. All right. The first question is, why don't you think a woman can raise a boy to be a man?
I feel like I have two sons. So for me, I feel like I still would have to get guidance from a man. So for me to say that I could fully raise a boy to be a man, where did I get that from? I'm a woman. So for me, I can only teach them like how to respect a woman, how to present yourself to a woman, how women think, how women walk, how women do all these things. I can only teach you things. Like I have two sons. So they're younger. Don't get me wrong. I don't have teenage sons. I have younger sons and I have brothers. So I come from a clan of 16. There's 16 of us. So I have 12 sisters and 4 brothers. My mom has raised, it's a lot more into that, but I was raised with my brother. My mom couldn't mold my brother to be a man. No matter how much she tried as a single mom, she couldn't do it. For me, I'm potty training a 3-year-old. Me potty training a 3-year-old, I have to ask, how do I get his I don't want to get bogged. His stuff to push down for he doesn't pee on the floor. I had to ask a man that. I don't have a woohoo to be like, how do I do that? Now he's into soccer now. He's into soccer. He's into football. I don't know those things. So where do I have to learn that from? I'm going on Google. I'm going on stats. I sports bet now too. I have to go ask a man how to do those things. So me learning that, how can I teach him how to be a man if I have to go ask people those things? Like, I can't do that. I would love to give myself that prop to be like, oh no, I still need his dad to help me teach me. I don't know how you guys get pressed in the street by a man. I've never experienced that. I don't have to worry about that. When y'all walk outside next to another man, I notice that y'all have to, what's up? You don't even know that man. So why do you have to say what's up? It's just a signal for y'all to be like, we cool, we good. So for me to say I could raise a boy to be a man, I could never. I would love to, but I can't. But I'm going to teach him how to be respectable, how to love a woman, because I'm going to teach him the things that I want him to do for what I wanted, I bet that's what you could say. So I could tell him, like, I want to be loved, I want to be hugged, I want to be talked to, I want to be listened to, but that's coming from a woman's point of view. I can't teach him that. So for me saying, like, Kevin, I can't speak on Kevin, but I did see a comment that said, like, yes, we can. There's no way possible. I always will have to ask a man. I call him my grandfather, hey, how do you change a tire? Now, as a woman, I know how to change my tire. I know what an income shack is. I know what an assist is, a rebound is. I know what all these things are because I asked a man, because I did not know. But so we as women can't say that. We can't. I wish we could, but we can't. So that's my take on it.
So then I have a question for you. A follow-up question is, what is your definition of a man?
See, that's a good question, because like I tell everybody nowadays, I have my own little podcast for like 30 seconds. And I feel like you have to, I can answer that for me. I can't answer that for anybody else, because everyone's definition of a word is different. So now if I were to ask you, I'm trying to think of something that's not crazy. I won't get you banned on here. I can ask you a question. Your meaning of a word doesn't mean the same meaning of a word. So my definition of what I experience is, my man has to take up the trash. My man, I don't want to go 50-50 on nothing. I will if I have to. I will, because it's just a time we have to. But I don't want to. I think it depends on your term of what you've been through, or what you've experienced. Now, another thing I can say though is, I feel like some women can help raise a man if they were in that dynamic where they were raised by a single father, and that's all I seen was a dad helping, or those things. I think that might be easier. But I can't answer anybody else. But my definition of a man would be take up the trash, mow the lawn. I don't want to go 50-50. It just depends on your preference, or what you've experienced in a relationship, because everyone is different. Some people haven't gone through what I've gone through in relationships and be like, I want these things. Some women have been carried to, or are easy to say, like, I ain't never been 50-50 with a man. I've never been left with a child. So me personally, I don't want a man who has more than kids than I do. You can have the same amount of kids as I do, but it just depends, because I've been through things, or I've experienced things. So I have like I ain't doing this no more. And some women, so it depends.
Sure. So when you break down those tasks, do you think that you're reducing a man to activities?
In a way, I didn't go elaborate on the way, but I think I am, because those are activities that a lot of men in our generation don't like to do. So I'm going to say, yes, I'm giving him activities because I don't know how to, like, they just don't do it nowadays. Like, I want you to take off the trash. I mean, they do. I think I encounter people who I didn't require these things from.
Okay.
So I think for me, I'm looking at it from a point of view. I didn't require these things, now I require them. So I think it depends. What are you providing? What are you providing that can be provided by mate if you're not doing 50-50? When I say 50-50, I don't mean about the housework. I don't mean about any of those things. Now, I will pitch in. I don't want to pay the rent. Let me rephrase what I mean. I don't want to pay the rent. Now, I'll pay the light bills. I'll go grocery shopping. I'll clean. I'll cook. I'll make sure you have a lunch every day. I just don't want to pay the rent. That's just my take on 50-50. Now, I'm providing. I do everything. I sports bet. I hustle. I work. I go to school. I take care of the kids. So for me, I just don't want that burden on it, because I've dealt with it I've done it for the last 10 years. I'm not that old. For the last 10 years, I don't want to do it no more. So that's just my take on it. I don't know.
So, okay. So then I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Alana? How you doing?
Hey, right.
You look nice and warm.
I'm trying to be, got to get these kids some food in this rain.
Yeah, and thank you. I want to say this too. Thank you for joining. It's not raining over here where I'm at. I'm in a fortress, and we don't have weather over here, so I have my own fireplace going on in the back. But the question that I did want to ask Vinay, and to you too, Alana, is what specific qualities or skills do you think are essential for a boy to become a man that a woman cannot provide?
In my opinion, a woman cannot provide the proper mind state to raise a man, because we are not men. That's number one. We will never understand what it's like to ever walk in your skin, to know what challenges you face, to know what obstacles that I have to prepare you for, because I can only assume. And I say that because I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. And there are things that I have tried to teach them that their father is like, no, that's not, you need to do it this way, or you need to say this way, or I'll talk to them. Because at the end of the day, I'm still only a woman, and I can only ever give you an idea. And that's based off my assumption. So I'm not going to know how it feels for you to walk into a store and then somebody, looks at you a certain way because you are a black man. Or I'm not ever going to know how it feels for somebody to assume, you could do this or that because you are a black man or a black young man. So I feel like in those instances, as a mother, I cannot prepare them for challenges they'll face. I can prepare them for some things. Yes, I can teach them how to be a little bit more emotionally available, in touch with their feelings, things like that, because that's what I would want. That's what their fathers struggle with. So I can kind of try to direct them in the manner their fathers struggle with, but anything else, no.
Even getting pulled over by the cops, like, it's a different perspective when I get pulled over by the cops. I get scared because I'm a black woman.
Right.
I fearfully do put my hands out the windows and be like, I ain't got nothing. Hold on, don't shoot me. But for you guys really have to watch how they've never been like, man, get out of the car or do anything crazy. I've got out of the car. So I think it's hard to be like, oh, I'm gonna teach you how to be a man. But when I get put over, I don't have the same things that you guys go through. When my brother got gang banged on, my brother's a square weirdo. So like for him to get gang banged on and he's just natural, like regular, it's like, how do you prevent these things? Because when he looks regular, he still gets asked, where you from? Living in Watts, where you from? What like it's just different. It's also, I think it's hard to be like, how can we teach him to be a man when, like, it depends on where you grew up at. What were you taught? Like, what was your household? Was it a 2-parent household? Was it a 1-parent household? Were you the ones? Are you up for survival or up for love? Because there's another thing too. Like, I'm gonna teach you how to be a man depending on what I went through. Now, was I raised on survival or love? I did notice, and me being in my previous relationship, is that I didn't. When you're off, one's off survival, one's off love, y'all are gonna be hitting heads with each other.
It'll be a clash.
That's already a hard thing as it is. So like trying to teach him how to be a man when I'm still trying to figure out how to be a woman, that's hard. That's so hard because I can say at 28 years old, I figured out what I'm lacking in as a woman, what I can do as a woman, or where I can be at, where I should be or can be as a woman, and what I want for as a woman. So me being like, I'm gonna teach him how to be a man. It's a whole different language. I could teach him how to be a black man, like what comes with it. I can't teach you to be a man. I can't.
Right. Like, she brings up a good point because my family, my grandmother lives off of 60th and 8th Ave for over 15 years, right? So I've always, I've been over there, walked over there, done all kinds of things, never had an issue, never.
Either.
My sons. Now, I have big children, but you can tell they're children.
For sure.
My son don't have a lot of facial hair, he's not built, and he was also wearing his Woodcrest Generals football gear. He goes to the store, the store to get the pizza, and he gets banged on by a group of females. And it pissed me off because I'm like, for one, you could tell that my 13-year-old is a child. What he was wearing dictated that he was a kid. My older son, okay, maybe because his shorts were red, what have you, but you still can clearly see a football logo. So why would you even do that? So she brings up a good point because there's things that you guys as men and even younger men will go through that we won't. We won't have to experience that. We won't have to go through that. And it sucks because I don't know how to prepare you for that. It made me mad. I was overly emotional about it, and I have to teach him that. He's like, well, Mom, I wasn't tripping. I didn't say nothing to her. I just looked at her and kept walking. And it still scared me because you have people that'll be ignorant and still come after him just because, oh, you ignored me. And so those are the types of things I never thought I had to prepare him for.
Okay. And those are valid points. I have another follow-up question then. If that's the case. And the question is, and it's kind of a lengthy question, but I'll repeat it if I need to. So the question is, can you point to any research or evidence that supports the idea that a single gender parent or sorry about that, a single gender parenting arrangement is superior for raising well-adjusted individuals? Meaning, can you show a situation where any one particular parent excelled in raising a child on their own, whether it be a father or a female? I mean, a father or a mother.
So I have a small attention span, and you lost me without. But
okay.
I just know you're asking like what. Basically, you're asking off of the whole thing was how on research wise on a scale, how do we know a male or woman taught better? Is that what you're asking? Or first?
Pretty much. If you boil it down, yeah. Is there anything that shows that a woman can raise a child better than, or a man can raise a child better than a woman?
You want research or you want personal experience?
So you could give personal experience, but that also is. So I feel like you guys are given, this is what we call like anecdotal evidence, right? These are experiences from you to individuals. So it's like, I'm not saying you guys are wrong, but there is.
But if you use, sorry to cut you off, but if you use, I'm thinking, so before I lose it. So, but if I were to go on Google and I were to use research purposes, that wouldn't be a mainly Black home. That would be based off of white parent home, Asian parent home, or that's not a Black parent home. And most of them wouldn't be based off of us, like what we've been through. I think it'd be based off of white people who are in 2-parent homes, Caucasian people who are in 2-parent homes. So I don't think it'll be about us. So I don't think it'll be accurate because we're basing it off of, like in the comments, how I said survival or love. Like now I feel like a man who was raised in a home and he was raised off of survival, he's going to teach his son how to survive. Now a man raised off of love, he's going to teach his son how to love. So I feel like it's kind of hard to answer when there's so many, like your story isn't my story and her story isn't my story. So it's going to be hard to be like, okay, well, this is the most accurate source there is when none of us came from the same circle.
Well, okay.
Circles with different circumstances.
Oh yeah, but when we say men, we're just talking about men in general, from boys to men. It doesn't matter what ethnicity or race. We're just talking about, does a woman have the tools to equip a man or a boy to become a man, right? Like, it's not necessarily about where you grew up, how you grew up, who you grew up with. It's
How does that not matter? Because if I was raised in Sherman Oaks, I'd have a different outlook. But being raised in Watts and being raised in Sherman Oaks, those two different things. In Watts, I went to school in Sherman Oaks. I didn't hear no gunshots. Watts, all I heard was gunshots. And on the news, you see the taxi dropping money, or you see somebody getting killed, an NEC kid getting killed, our street being blocked up all the time. In Sherman Oaks, I've never heard one gunshot. So it's hard to say. You can't base it off of your surroundings or stuff like that, because I'm going to teach my kids, like, okay, when I lived in Watts, y'all can't go outside and play with the neighbors. It's not happening. I don't want you getting shot with Lil King. So now I'm not going outside. But now if I lived in Sherman Oaks, yeah, you can go hang out with Henry and Richard and Steven. But it's different. So it's hard to say. You can't base it off of where you're raised at. When you're raised, it's kind of different.
Would you apply this? Would you say that in general, you would use that same, the way you teach a child that lives in let's say the hood, versus the way you teach a child to live in, or you raise a child to live in Sherman Oaks, right? Couldn't that go for a boy or a girl?
No, I think women. No, I think I would be. I have both. So I have a son and daughter. I think I'm more concerned about my son than my daughter. My daughter isn't gonna get gunned down or getting asked questions of where she's going, what she's doing. But it's the same. Like, I think it's. I think it's still different. Like, I look at it differently. Like, when my sons could do certain things that my daughter couldn't, and I didn't understand that until my mom. My mom used to do that. My brother used to be able to do things that I couldn't, or he couldn't do things that I could do. So I think it still depends, because there's two different genders, and like we said, like, I don't get asked questions like where you from or anything like that when I'm out in the street. So my sons have to move differently than my daughter.
Okay, but I would say, I would ask, what does that have to do with being a man? Because if there are guy gangs, there are probably female gangs as well. So if you're teaching someone to, A, always look over your shoulder, A, don't wear red, A, don't wear blue, A, wouldn't that fit towards either gender? So it's not like you're
I've never had to watch what color I lived in Watts. I've never had to be like, I can't wear red. My brother couldn't wear red. I could wear red. So it's mainly with a boy. Like, I've never got asked, where you from? Even from females. I have female friends that are from Swans and Bounty Hunters and Hat Gang, all types of everywhere. But I've never had to encounter that. So no, it would still be different for women, for girls.
But well, what does that have to do with being a man though?
Like, got me.
Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you're gonna equip, if you're living in a certain area,
Right.
and let's say you made $40 billion off the lotto, and you move to, I don't know, somewhere where ain't nobody but yourself, right? What are you gonna teach them then? There are no gangs around. There's nothing. So what would you teach them then?
I think I don't know if you guys seen the movie. It sounds random, but The Hate You Give. In the movie, he taught his sons about when you get put over, how to put your hands up, how to do those things. Because even if I'm living in a different area, I still have to teach them that everyone, because your skin color, everyone doesn't like you. So I would teach my kids how to be respectful, how to answer certain questions, and also how to, like, when cops pull you over in certain areas, you look like you're not supposed to belong there. How to answer the questions and how to approach it. Don't come off as, what, like, why didn't you even do nothing? Like, just make sure you're. Even now, I teach my kids. When he had soccer the other day, he walked up. He said, I said, no, say, hi, coach, how are you? It's just teaching them how to speak when they're in different circumstances, because his coach was Caucasian. So you have to fit in into where you're surrounding yourself. And I can fit in anywhere. I can go to work and be like, hey, what's up, bitch? And I can get to my boss and be like, hey, how are you doing? Yes, I answered the call for you. It's just making sure that you can fit in every surrounding, so you're not limiting yourself, if that makes sense. So I would teach them how to answer certain questions depending on what circumstances you're in, even if it wasn't about gunshots and stuff like that. Also, keep your pants on your butt. No one wants to see your butt hanging, because women we look at that. When you go to your a mom's house, I'll show you, like, when you go in the house, you don't just sit down anywhere. You get asked, can I sit down? Just teaching them certain things. It's not just that. I could teach them that, but I think that.
Okay, hold on. Kevin was available to join. I don't see where I could have added him. Kevin, if you could do that again for me, because I have another question for that would be for both of you guys. If you're saying that men or women can't raise boys to be men, then it sounds like you're saying society will do a better job than raising your child than you would. Because if you can't raise your boy to be a man, where else is he going to get that from? If you didn't have the father in the house and he went out in the world with whatever your tutelage was, whatever your upbringing was, how does he then become a man? Society is gonna throw him. The world is gonna throw him things that he's gonna have to navigate himself. Sure, because maybe you didn't have the insight, but if that's the case, then society raises men better than women.
I don't want to say that I'm relying on society to raise my boys better than I could. I want to say that I am trying to find different ways to put that male influence for them. Was like, as she said, my son has played football since he was 5, and then his brother right after him. And I tried to find proper role models for him to teach him, men are not, you're not supposed to whine this way. You don't do that. Knock it off. Things like that. But I'm not just sending him out into the world blind. I don't want this guy on the corner to raise my son. I don't want these people in this store to say something to my son. So I try my best to navigate what he did not have, even though their father has been incarcerated for 11 years. So he's still an influence in their life. He talks to them as much as he can, damn near every day. And I try to have him put his input in, but there are some things that he cannot always give them, i.e. certain things, like, he's not going to always know what the changes are going around. He's not going to always know what the workplace is or what have you. So I'm trying to find family members or people that I trust to do that. I don't want to just send him into the world blind. So I don't want society to raise my son, because as we know, society does not dictate how you are. You
Yeah.
can adjust to it, but it does not dictate how you are, because she mentioned how, as a woman getting pulled over, there's certain things that we don't have to experience. For me, that's not true, because even coming down my own street, I was not speeding, I was not doing anything out of the ordinary, and they pulled me over, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm pulling out my driver's license, and I'm calmly asking and it was a elder white man and a lady. I don't know her ethnicity, but I asked him calmly, "Why am I being stopped?" And I look up, and you could see the anger and irritation in his face. "We're not gonna start like that," and I'm like, "I didn't start anything, sir. I'm speaking. I just want to know what's going on." And as I look back, and both of my children were younger, and as I look back, this woman is standing over my youngest son while he's asleep with her hand on her gun. "Why is your hand on your gun?" And you see a single woman with 2 younger children in car seats in the back. What is that
Yeah.
for? So I can only give him my experiences of society, but I'm not necessarily letting them raise him. I'm just saying that I cannot equip him with everything it means to be a man. I cannot equip him with what it is. I can only give him an idea, because when my father was in the household, my mother and my father was married, I didn't see, my father wasn't always taking out the trash. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
My father wasn't always just the sole provider. You know what I'm saying? I can only give him an example of what I feel, and that's just, unity, trying to do the best for those that you love, trying to be your best on everything. And that's not just one specific gender, that's for everybody, because you want to go out and you want to be the best you can be. But again, I cannot teach him, because there was perfect example. I was always doing their laundry, I was always cleaning them up after them, because that's what I was taught.
Sure.
We clean house. their father told me, he's like, no, you're going to raise lazy men. He's like, don't do that. He's like, they need to fend for themselves. I didn't see an issue with it because I'm cleaning my house. But
Right.
now my 15-year-old will go out there and do his laundry, but the 13-year-old, it's a fight, tooth and nail. He's like, I don't want to do that. And I just see that certain things, discipline-wise, they're at an age where I can no longer be that sole person. They're bigger than me. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They're stronger than me. So there's a certain thing where a father should be there, and especially when I've seen in two-parent households where a mother will say something and the kid is hesitant to listen, but as soon as that father voice comes in, it's ooh 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 ooh. So I feel like the father teaches a discipline without being overly, over the top.
Sure.
And I feel like as mothers, yes, it's hard for us, and we're always going to do the best we can, but there's something that they're going to lack simply because we are not men. Yes, my son will be well mannered. Yes, I'm teaching him. He has a girlfriend now. Yes, I'm teaching him how to deal with her. How to ask her things that are important to her, things of that nature. Like what is she interested in? Where does she come from? Like he didn't even know she was Belizean. I knew before he did, and I told him that's you can't call yourself loving her if you don't know anything about her. So I can teach him those things. I can teach him those things.
Is that something that you wanted in your past or in your relationship that you like, I wanted this and I want you to instill this so then moving forward, right?
Yeah, because his dad, and this is where his dad pissed me off. His dad's conversation with him when he told him he had a girlfriend was, oh, make sure you got condoms. Sir, sir,
I
sir,
hate that.
sir, sir. There's more to it. There's more to it than just make sure you have condoms, right? There's more to it. And then I teach them, what I saw their father do, because when we were in the house with their father, I didn't have to do my laundry. That's number one. He was very, very neat, very tidy, very clean, number two. So it was very easy for me to follow behind what he was already doing because that was just what we were doing. I'm cooking, he's cleaning. You know what I'm saying? The kitchen, I'm making something and I turn around and this is already washed. You know what I'm saying? So I can teach them a thought process, but they're not seeing it. So it's not registering to them. So my kitchen is my responsibility, even though it's your chore, even though I get in your head, and even though I tell you, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, it doesn't always get done because it's not a thought process of, oh, I need to make sure I listen to mom, or I need to do this, because there's not that extra oomph from a father there, or the extra oomph from a male there, that male voice in his ear to make sure you're a stand-up young man doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because by the time their father does call and gets on them, it's just like, oh, okay, dad, yeah, all right, okay, and then that's it. So I
So
feel like, he'll lack some things, but hopefully not too much. But I just know that I fall short on some things because I'm simply not a male. It does not mean that he's not going to be raised properly. It just means there are some things he's going to lack.
and okay. So I'm gonna segue. Okay, and I'm glad you said that. So Facebook has limited me. I did a little research before I got on, and it said I could bring on 50 people, but clearly that's not the case because I
Mm-hmm.
can't bring Kevin in. So what I'm gonna do, if you're still available, Alana, I'm gonna rotate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna bring Kevin up, and then I'm gonna let him and Vinay speak, and then whenever they're done, I'll bring Vinay down, and then I'll let you come back up and things of that nature. So.
Alrighty.
All right. Kevin, where are you? Let me see.
Yeah, I spoke for like 40 minutes. That was interesting. It was interesting.
All right. So, Kevin, I gotta ask you, um, what is your take on this? Can a woman raise a boy to become a man?
Well, you already know my answer. I already said that was the con on that. So I was listening to everything that they were saying, and it was interesting when you asked what is, a man to them. And the funny thing about that is you ask 10 people that question, you'll probably get 10 different answers, right? So if you're going to get 10 different answers, what does that tell you? It tells you that it's being a man is not objective, right? It's a subjective way of viewing what a man is, right? And a lot of that is pushed by, societal norms. So it changes. So being a man changes from geographical location to culture to era in time, right? Or just to an individual, just ethnicity, right? So when they're giving examples of being approached in the hood, which has nothing to do with actually being a man, right? They're giving more of, I guess, an experience from a minority's perspective versus, maybe a white person or Asian or somebody in a different culture, right? Um, and so would you say that those people aren't men as well? Because they didn't experience that, or they don't know how to, they're not subjected to that type of ordeal, and they may not know how to respond to that. Is that no longer a man because he doesn't know how to react to that? No. So again, it's all subjective. Like it's a weird thing, and even the question itself: can a woman can't raise a boy to be a man? And if you think about that for a second, you have to think where does that come from, right? That comes misogyny. It comes from patriarchal system. That's all it comes from. And it's convinced women, like these two women here, that they can't raise a boy to be a man, right? Which is the what patriarchal society has on hold on many different people, and mainly men, you know what I mean? Because it pushes men to believe that if a woman can raise a boy to be a man, then it somehow devalues him as a man. It's like, oh, well, I'm not important anymore. I'm not needed. So they have to fight for that position of saying, no, a woman can't do that. They need me. So it becomes ego and like an insecurity, right? And being a man in simple terms is, if you want to be the real definition, is just an adult human male. That's it. Now we're going to add what society says, right? So what does society say? So when you ask somebody what being a man is, right? So we can ask probably everybody on this chat. You'll get tons of different opinions, right? So the question I usually ask women or men is this: what can a man teach a boy that a woman is utterly unable to learn herself and then pass that knowledge on to that boy? Because she gave examples of, oh, well, I needed to change a tire, or I had to learn about football. Well, you're learning exactly what
But I learned from the
male dominated sports are, right? And then now even if you're learning it from a man, you're able to then take that information that you're receiving and passing that on to your
but
son. So now you're teaching him what you learned,
but you
because
but do you also feel like that my son, I feel like my son is more receptive to hearing it from a man than from a woman, because they feel like, oh, he's been through it, he's a male, so it's more of an understanding. Like I can't, you don't think so? Because I think so.
no,
Like I think from like telling him like, oh, he's gonna rebound. Oh yeah,
look,
man, he did.
let me get let me give you an example of single women who's raised men, right? You have Obama.
Oh,
You have LeBron James. You have
oh,
Kanye West. You have Jon Stewart. You have Jay-Z. You have Eddie Murphy. You have Keanu Reeves. You have 50 Cent, Samuel L. Jackson. And these are just celebrities. We're not even naming just normal guys out there. So I named about 10 or 15 guys that were raised by single mothers, right? So now what we're going to do is you're going to try to come in and say, well, oh, they had male influences. Well, that's what everybody, because we have female influences as well. You can't get away from men and women in the world, but those women raised those men, those boys, and those are some outstanding men, if you don't ask me. And so they are men. So unless you're saying that those guys that I name aren't men, then you're absolutely totally incorrect. That's data. That's not even opinion anymore, right? That's actual things that happen. So again, whether your son is more receptive to a man or to you is besides the point of, are you able to do it? Are you able to teach it? Because then as a parent, you have to learn how to get your son to be receptive to you, right? That is the job of the parent. So it may be a little more difficult for you, maybe a little more strenuous, but you can do it. You're saying that a woman is utterly incapable of learning what it is to be a man, whatever that is, right? And then passing that knowledge on. That's asinine. That's crazy,
Like
right? So So you've learned how to play football, right? You said I have to Google this and I had to learn this, and I'm in sports betting. Well, guess what? Now you can pass that on to your son. So you're able to do that, right? Whether you're learning it from here's the thing. They have a female right now that is a quarterback for the NFL. I'm sorry, for the MLB that teaches men how to bat. A woman. She's teaching grown men who are already who've already learned how to bat, who are professionals, how to be better at batting. That's a woman teaching a man in a male-dominated sport, right? And we have many examples of that. So the thing is you are following this patriarchal system, right? Which is stems in misogyny, because you never hear this. You never hear this term. Well, a man can't raise a girl to be a woman. That term is non-existent, right? We don't say that. That's something we don't say. Why do we not say that? Because it's all about devaluing the woman, and that's the issue.
You guys, so do you feel like, if we were to reverse this question, you feel like that you could teach a woman, you could teach a girl?
Absolutely. I have 3 daughters. Okay, I had to learn about uh, the pads, right? When my daughter came into her menstrual cycle, I didn't know that you had night pads and the day pads and stuff like that, right? Okay, I learned it. I know how to put them. I taught her how to, I went and bought them because she was with me. So I had to find that out. You know what I asked? I asked women, hey, what do I do? Which one do I get? The 3 to 4? I didn't understand any of this, but I learned it. And guess what I did? I taught my daughter, right? I potty trained my daughter. You don't wipe back from front. This is stuff that I learned as a man learning how to teach a woman. Did you know that a lot of women go to male gynecologists? Yeah. These are men, right? So these men learn about the women anatomy, women biology. They teach women. They're telling women what to do. So yes, you're not. What's the word? You can't say that a person is unable to learn and then teach something based upon solely upon their biological sex. Like we are genetically predisposed to not learning what the other sex can or cannot do. That's a crazy thing. It makes absolutely no sense. Anybody can learn it and anybody can pass that on. And you gave a perfect example when you were talking, right? But then again, we ask you again, what's being a man? So now that boils down to a subjective opinion. What is being a man? I'm asking you, what's being a man? What is being a man? And then what can you not learn and teach that boy that?
I feel like being a man is different on what my now, like you said, I'm gonna get 10 different answers. Now, I could teach him those things, but I do feel like if me saying but I feel like it's still gonna be certain things that I can't teach him. Like
what? Give me an example of what you can unable to learn and then teach him. Give me one example.
My son, how to pee in the toilet without his thing raising up to the sky and peeing everywhere.
Okay, so I hear this a lot, this is silly.
So many times I've tried it.
It's really simple. It's this. Honestly, urinating is not a difficult task. I don't know why people make this. It's a very easy task to learn. Hold it, point. That's it. Now I've taught you, okay? If your son is doing something, just tell him to hold it and point down into the toilet. Now you've learned that. This is a very simple task. This task is funny. And that's not being a man. I'm sorry, peeing in the toilet, it's not being a man, like, right? He's still a boy when he does it. You realize that, right? So he's not a man just yet. So the urination argument you don't need a penis to teach a boy how. I've never pulled out my dick and showed my penis, a kid, how to piss, all right? I don't need to show him that, right? And any man who does, I'm kind of going to question him about that. Hey man, you don't really need to pull out your stuff to show him.
But I just feel like when he goes with his dad, like I don't have those problems with the like, oh, he gets it over here. So I'm like, okay, I can't teach you that. Because I'm trying and you're not. With my daughter, I was able to do it for her and show her, and within a month she got it. I've been doing this shit for like 6 months, and this boy, my son, not got it.
I didn't have to sit down on the toilet and show my daughter how to pee. I don't have a vagina. I didn't have to show her how to wipe herself. Again, this is a silly concept. Potty training is really easy. Did you know a lot of
those.
People, while the kids get potty trained in daycare, like not even from their parents, they get potty trained in daycare. And guess who mostly run daycares?
Women.
Women. So a lot of kids get potty trained in daycare. That's a known thing. Especially if you had kids, you're at work, you know, because some daycares won't even accept kids if they're not potty trained yet, and then some daycares will, and they'll help them out. So
Okay, so
again, and what we're doing is like Brian said earlier, you're giving anecdotal evidence, right? So this is from personal experience. So what you have to say is rephrase that and go, well, I can't teach my boy how to be a man. Maybe other women can, but I'm unable to do it.
right.
And that's where, and that has nothing to do with your gender or sex. It's just you as a person, right? So if you want to rephrase that, then there's no argument. I'll be like, okay, I think you still can learn it. You know, maybe I can help you along the way. But to sit and say women can't, that's a crazy perspective.
I feel like there's certain things I say. So I think I get what you're saying. I might have to agree with Kevin. Even I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. No, I'm just kidding. But certain things I can learn how to teach him how to be a man. But there's certain things I feel like I can't teach him. Like when you guys approach the man thing, where y'all see each other in stores and y'all eye each other, or like the gangbanging situation. I've never like there's certain things that I don't know how to like. It's not being a man. Also how to include another man on certain aspects of things. Do you feel like
that's cultural? But that's cultural. Again, the first thing I said when we spoke is that's cultural. That's an African American thing, right? It's not an Asian thing. You know, it's not a Russian thing. People don't do that in Europe, right? So this is you're giving examples that are different from again, era and time, geographical location, ethnicity, cultural influences. That's not being a man either. It's like this thing, like if I don't do this and he doesn't do the back, like, oh man, well, he must have been raised by a single mother. He didn't, tilt his head. That's a black thing. It's an African American thing. So again, if you have two men in, let's say, outside or in the store, right? One is an Asian guy. I'm talking about directly from Asia, fresh off the boat, right? And then you have a black guy and he does this. The Asian guy's like, what the fuck was he doing? Is he not a man anymore, or did he not be taught how to properly be a man? No, that's cultural. You're not talking about being a man anymore. You're talking about cultural differences between how people interact with each other, right? Perfect example of societal influence is this. Would you consider pink feminine, right? And then blue masculine, correct? Like if you go to the store, you see these, right? But from the 1800s, 19th century to the early 20th century, pink was worn by boys. It was considered a very strong color, and blue was considered soft, right? So, and on top of that, all children who were, born in these times wore dresses. All children, boys and girls. Do you know why they wore dresses? They wore dresses because it was easier to take the diapers off, change them, put it back on, instead of having to take the pants off and putting the legs back on, right? So this is what society has taught you. That's all. So you're basing your arguments strictly on a societal influence.
right?
That's it, right? So pink is now for girls, blue is for boys. What makes you determine that? It's because somebody told you. It's because when you go to stores, you see that. That's the only reason why you affiliate those two. That's it. It wasn't something you were born with, right?
Now,
So again, you're taught that. So everything is taught, and we follow that, and we're like lemmings, and everybody fits into this society because we all learn that shit. It's all learned.
now how, since it's been learned, like I like what Venus said, I pulled her question up. It says all parents should stop putting limitations on what they can do as a parent. All things are possible if you desire to teach them. I completely agree with it. But if you're in a relationship with someone better, you somebody who tells you that you can't do these things or that things, how do we go from how you just ask, stop blue and stuff like that? How do you reverse those things within, and like, how do I explain it? Like, I'm told that I can't teach him to be a man from his dad, or let's say, I'm just saying, I'm not saying
Right.
he did, but I'm saying, let's say he did. Now, how do I take that role from him if he's telling me this is what you can't do because you're not a man?
Well, then,
you can't.
then you just disagree, and you disagree and you do it. Like, who cares? Like, if people tell you can't do something, then prove them wrong. And don't. I mean, are you going to believe them? like that. It's again, like I said, the reason why men do this is because they feel like their their value is diminishes if a woman can do what they can do, right? And it doesn't. It's fine. I'm a man. Okay, I'm fine with it. I know women can teach.
Oh, she asked. She said, "Do y'all believe in gender roles relationships?" Because that's another thing too. Because you just said like we have gender roles, and you're telling me that I can only do this, but I can't do that. That's the
Well,
same.
I don't follow gender roles. I think they're silly. They're outdated. They're archaic, right? Again, and they're not meaningful to me. It's stupid, right? At one point, yeah, you probably needed them, especially women. You know, at one point in time, due to how, again, misogyny, patriarchy, limited women from doing what they can do. You guys had to stay at home and fucking wash dishes and take care of the kids. You couldn't get a job. You couldn't even get divorced. And if you tried to get divorced, it was extremely difficult, even if this man is cheating on you, right? But we're not in those times anymore. We're in 2024. Fuck all that shit, right? We're past that. So now, gender roles are silly, right? Fucking, if the trash is full, take it out. Like, it shouldn't be just you're not gonna wait for, if your husband's on vacation. It's like a week, and trash is just piling up in the in the kitchen, and it's smelling. You got roaches and all that kind of stuff. You're like, it's the guy's job. I'm gonna go ahead and do these dishes, and you're driving by yourself. You're about to run out of gas. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm gonna run out of gas, because the guy's supposed to pump my gas for me. These are silly, stupid things that you gotta escape from for these gender roles. These are, but again, even with those being said, it's kind of off the subject because they're gender roles. But you learn that. You learn your gender roles. Somebody told you that. Society told you this is what you're supposed to do as a woman, and a lot of people blindly follow it. And that's fine because that's how people are kept in their place, right? But again, back the main point is, can a woman teach a boy to be a man? So the question again is, what are you utterly unable to learn
No,
that you just can't learn it, and then you can't teach it?
no, I can learn it. I can teach it. I guess we have like.
Yeah, you can learn it, you can teach it. And what you have to realize is this, which your thought process, right? And the reason why you actually started believing that is because, one, that's like the norm of society. Women can't teach a boy to be a man. You need a man in the house, and blah 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 blah. And the women start believing that shit because it's always pushed. But again, you never hear, well, a man can't teach a girl to be a woman. That's not a term that we use. And you have to ask, like, why? Why is that not a term? Right? And then when people do bring it up, then they try to argue, well, yeah, it's true too. Nah, nobody says that shit. So again, stop following what society and other people are telling you. It's toxic anyway, right? Get out of that mindset. You can do it. You can fucking learn, and you already proved it. You learned that shit. You got taught from your grandfather how to change a tire. You know how to fucking change. You can teach your son how to change a tire,
Yeah.
right? You can teach your son football because you're learning football. Guess what? Men had to learn it from somebody else as well. They didn't just It wasn't just natural. Niggas didn't come out like knowing where the first down and 2-point conversions are. No, we had to learn it by watching. And there's still a lot of men who don't absolutely have no idea how football works, right? I can't tell you shit about hockey. Okay, I can't tell you anything. I know they have a puck and some sticks and they can fight and it's cold, and that's pretty much the extent of what I know about it, right? So I can't teach you, but guess what? I bet you if you learned it, you can probably teach me.
Yeah, I know how to. I know. Yeah, I know it.
Well, there you go. So I can't. So there's absolutely nothing that even if you guys examples of in the hood and you're approaching, there's like, what's up, cuz?
I,
What's up, blood?
I did do
You,
things.
you, you can learn. You can teach your son how to react to that. Hey, man, that's what you do.
When I did,
This happens.
I,
Don't do this or react like this. You can learn that too. So it's nothing that you cannot learn
Go
unless
ahead.
you have a learning deficiency.
It was like a delay. Go ahead,
no, I
Vinay.
do think that like there's certain things like I can't like as a man. I'm not gonna say as a man, but I think as a male, just period. I can't. I've never encountered it. I just feel like that's what I think I took on it. Like I can't teach you if I've never experienced it, but I can go there's certain
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I haven't experienced that other men have experienced.
right.
That doesn't mean I can't learn it. Like, I'm sorry to, every man doesn't go through the same shit, right?
No,
Like, so it's we go through different shit. It's some stuff that Bryant can teach me, right? And it's some stuff that I can teach him. And guess what? It's some stuff that you can teach both of us, and it would be almost considered manly, right? And we probably didn't know it,
right.
right? But again, because again, this is all subjective. This is all contingent on era and time. At one point of time, right? Would you consider being a man wearing a skirt? Is that like being a man? Is that manly, right? To us in Western society, no, it's not. But most of the world, men wear skirts.
Right.
Asia, India, Africa, Ireland, Hawaii. Most men wear skirts, right? Think about this for a second. Roman soldiers, what did they wear?
Skirts.
They wore skirts. And those were, technically, I'm pretty sure those are fucking some manly men, right? Like, if you want to be technical, these guys were fighting, they stab motherfuckers, and that was like close hand-to-hand combat, right? But they wore skirts. So again, it's something you're taught. That's it. You got to unlearn that patriarchal bullshit, right? You're under a patriarchy right now. Men run this shit, and so men create the narrative, and the narrative is you can't do what we can do. Because if you can, we feel devalued, which is untrue. I'm still a man. I don't give a fuck what you learn and what you can do and you can't do. That changes nothing about who I am as a man, right? If you teach your son how to grow up and be a productive human being with good morals and standards, but this nigga can't play basketball, can't change a tire, can't change a light bulb, doesn't know anything about sports, that does not make him any less of a man with a man who can, right? Matter of fact, you get a father who raises his son to be a man, and this nigga's out in the street shooting people and robbing motherfuckers, and he can throw a football really far, right? But he's like one of the worst kind you can have. And then you raise a boy, and he doesn't do any sports, but he's productive. He treats his women right. He's fucking sensitive, right? And I'm sorry, that's a better man than with the father type. Just because that nigga go football, come on, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy perspective, and we got to get out of that.
I want to see if Huey. I don't know if Huey's still in the chat or if he's working. Huey, bald head, chocolate man, strange. Are you in the chat still?
We don't even know about it. Like, Kevin shut it down. Like, I can't even say that to no more.
Well, I mean, because I had another question. I was like, if you don't agree with that, I have another question. But
No,
since
I agree. I just think I do. I mean, I still have my take on it, but I'm not Kevin's. Kevin's not wrong because I've learned.
It's difficult for a woman to learn it because it's not what you're taught as a growing up. So you have to learn as an adult, right? Like when I had to learn about stuff with my daughter, I never knew that there were different types of pads, until my daughter had a menstrual cycle. I never had that discussion with women before, right? Now I have a daughter, right? 14 years old. She got her menstrual 2 years ago when she was 12. But now I have two more. I'm prepared for those. I'm ready for that because I've already been through this. I learned it, right? So I'm already prepared. And there's different, the 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff for the pads. I had to learn all this shit, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you guys know. Because you guys have probably been doing this since you were teenagers, right? So it's normal for you guys. But I'm able to learn it, just like you're able to learn it. It's a woman can't. When I ask that question, a lot of people always go to the peeing thing, that's really weird to me. Like that's the thing that like even men like, well, she can't teach them how to piss in a straight line. I'm like, hey, bro, like it's not a difficult. I'm sorry, peeing is really easy. It's natural. It's like it's even if a man was never there to teach a boy would learn how to fucking urinate and hose.
I still believe you can't teach a boy certain experiences, just like a father can't teach his daughter certain experiences. Hold on. She will go through. I said certain experiences that I've gone through that I can't teach my son. There's certain things that their man will go through I would never be able to explain. I mean, experiences like my father happened that I could never explain to him like that. My sons may go through. I can't explain. I don't know how to. I don't know how to tell you how to walk that. Like how Alonna said that her son had got gang bang on by a girl. What do I tell you? I've never experienced that. I've never had to go through that. So for me, it's not saying that he's not a man, but there's certain experiences that a man go through that I've never gone through. So I feel like I can't. There's certain things I can't teach him.
Again, different men go through different things. So I've never experienced that either. I'm a man. So what do? We learn it and then we pass it on. How do we fix this problem that we're having? Right? You learn and then you correct it. Just because you never experienced it doesn't mean you can't learn and teach about it. I've never experienced a menstrual cycle ever in my life. Ever.
How do I learn? And listen, we're basing off of race right now. So how do I teach my son, this girl from Swans walked up to him like, hey, you from doo-doo-doo? Oh, okay. Like, what do I say?
See, that's a gang banging. That's a gang banging thing. So how do you say it? Just, I mean, I would just teach myself because I've never had that. So I've never had that experience. I've been banged on before, not by females. I have been banged on by guys. It's just because of where I grew up, right? But all I've ever said was, "Oh man, I don't bang. I'm not with that. Like, I don't bang." And now if they keep pressing it, it's not about gang bang anymore. They're just trying to fuck with you. So now you defend yourself, male or female, right? At the end of all that, make sure you defend yourself, whether you got to fucking run or you got to fight, right? Ain't nothing wrong with running, right? Save your life. But if you got to run, you got to fight. You know what I'm saying? You got to do. But at the end of that, the main thing is defend yourself, right? If somebody's approaching you in a negative aspect, I try to diffuse the situation as much as I can. Kind words, try not to, they call it match energy. Don't be hostile.
But even
if they keep pushing.
How you said that there, because you're saying let's not base it off that. But a lot of the people in these comments, and I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, we're in the area. We're from LA, Compton, this part, that part, Long Beach, or whatever the case may be. So our experiences are almost the same. So like, for instance, my brother got gang banged on, and he's jumping on him. Even when my brother's square, he's like, I'm not from here. I'm not from there. He still got jumped on and still got beat up on. Like,
right. What? So again, I already answered it. Defend yourself. So at the end of the day, you have to defend yourself. And so now I just gave you something that you can pass on, whether you want to take that or not. But you can learn it. And so whatever the situation is, you're not unable to not learn it. Again, I didn't grow up in the gangbang. My family's all gangbangs, from Grape Street to Treetop, Pyro, you know what I mean? Like, some of my friends from 20 Crip, like, I grew up in 190 East Coast Crip area. Again, like, so I grew up around, I just never, joined the gang. And so I'm not privy to all the, the politics of gang banging. I mean, I'm familiar with some of it, but it's not my thing. Right. So again, that's not a men thing though, because women gang bang too. And like you just said, a woman came up and banged on her son. So now you have a female doing it to a male. So again, that's not a male thing. Again, every example is, again, cultural, based upon ethnicity. There's nothing of being a man. Being a man is something that is subjective to each individual. So if I teach my son how to be a man, which is totally different from how this other man teaches his son how to be a man, who is correct? No one, because it boils down to subjectivity. He can't say that my son is not a man, because again, now if you want to be technical, the only thing that makes a boy a man is when he gets into adulthood. That's it. That's where it stops. That's objective. No one can dispute that. Now he can be a moral man, he can be an immoral man, he can be a good, all that kind of stuff comes, and that's all subjective as well. So again, like, being a man is something that is subjective. It's no one size fits all to that category.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I would just say I think it's because the society has told us, like, I'm not a woman if I don't cook or clean,
yeah, that's stupid. That's do you feel devalued? Do you feel like you're no longer a woman if you can't make a good steak and some spaghetti? Like, now do you think that you're just you're not a woman anymore. You're something else. Come on, man. It doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all, right? Like that's stupid, right? Here's the thing. Most chefs in the world are men.
Yeah.
Right? Well, most they're men.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it's yeah.
So let me ask you, Vinay, now that you've heard all this good information from Kevin, what do you think now? Do you still think that a woman, any woman, could not raise a boy to be a man? Because I'm looking at Kevin already said like half the people that I was going to name, but they're still like Will Smith, Dwayne The Rock
Yeah.
Johnson, Eminem, Shaquille O'Neal. Like these are men who were raised by women and they've become to be great men.
And athletic and
Yeah.
oh, my shit
Yeah.
look like
Every aspect of a man that a woman would want are these men. But if you're saying that a man can't raise a woman to be a man, then what are these men? What are these instances? And it pretty much goes to Kevin's points, his many points. Like, yeah, it's something you can learn. If you're talking about changing the tire, do you know how to change one? If you know how to change one, then you can just tell. As a matter of fact, here's a perfect example. I know nothing about sports betting, but when I saw you post that you were actually making money sports betting, I was like, I don't even know half the teams that you bet for. I don't know half the people, but you learned from a man and you're actually showing me. I just learned from Kevin, right? I don't have any kids and I've never fathered any daughters. I've only with boys. This is something that I've learned today as well. I had no clue. I wouldn't even know what to look for.
that,
So
man.
I mean,
I was in the store like, all right, let me call. What do I get? I don't know what to get. What size?
yeah,
It was crazy. It was an experience though, but it's an experience that I can pass along and I can teach. I enjoy being a father, so I like learning new things.
Yeah, and I think it's like how Kevin said it. Like, I guess I can't go around saying, I mean, boys. I'm learning how to play soccer. I go out there, I'll be on TikTok learning how to play soccer, and I think that's a male sport. But shit, and I learn every day how TikTok or how to do this and whatever the case may be. So I guess I can't go back and say. I think it's just more wanting to learn, and I'm a parent that's willing to learn every sport that my kids are in or every that requires learning for my kids. So I guess you can't walk around saying anymore. I just can say that I just need to learn. I guess I would have to embark on more experiences that the guys have. So if it comes up in the conversation, I'm able to, I guess, chime in and be like, oh, actually, this is what I've learned. This is how you can move like A, B, and C. You can do these things. So I guess Kevin, whatever. Yeah.
But experiences are individualistic,
They
right? They're individualistic, so
are online
they,
too.
yeah. So yeah, here's the thing. This is what I can give you as a person, not even as a man, just as a person. If you're raising a son and you're raising him as a single mother, just raise him to be a good, productive human being. All that other extra bullshit about being manly and changing tires and niggas gotta that. If he can't change the tire, fucking raise him to where he make enough money to where he got AAA and somebody else change his tire, right? You know, like that's minute BS, right? It's not. He's not any less of a man, okay? Like back in the day, men used to have to build their houses, go out and hunt and kill, fucking, their food for their food and cook it and blah 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 blah, right? Um, and now, like, you got these old school men who grew up. Oh, men don't do this anymore. They don't know how to put up a drywall. It's not. It's like this over toxic masculinity stuff that we have, right? Which it is. All it is toxic masculinity. That's not make you a man, right? So I don't know shit. My brother was a homosexual, okay, and this dude knew how to. And mind you, grew up with my father and my dad. Actually, he grew up more with my mom than I grew up more with my father than he did when my mom and dad split. This dude knew how to change brakes, brake pads. He's the one who like put together all the stuff for my mama in the house. I'm terrible at that shit. Okay, I can do a tune up and change some spark plugs and oil. That's about and the tire. That's about as much as I can do. Okay. Now, mind you, he grew up mainly with my mother, and he knew how to, change brakes and brake pads, all that kind of shit, which is crazy, right? So again, we both grew up pretty much in the same household, but I was with my mom until I was 13 or 14. My dad and my mom split up about when I was 9, and so from 9 to 14, I was with my mom. And then I moved with my dad, and I, the rest of my life with my dad. And then my brother was 4 years younger than me, and he grew up with my mom mainly, and learned all this quote unquote manly stuff that I didn't learn. And here's the crazy thing: my dad was a mechanic, right? But I learned that shit from him, right? So, you know. Again, it's not, teach your son how to be a productive, good human being. Let him know that fucking crying is okay and showing his emotions and all that kind of shit. It's fucking fine, right? He's not gonna be like, don't try to like overdo the masculinity of what people teach, right? Crying is fine, and telling people how you feel, that's all fine.
How am I going to teach that? Like how I'm having a conversation with you, so I'm having a different outlook on the conversation with you. Now, let's say, for instance, I'm dealing with somebody. Let's say my daughter's dad. I'm dealing with somebody who tells me that, or let's say whoever, he can't cry. He's not supposed to cry. Now I'm arguing. I'm going to argue with somebody.
Yeah, argue with him because he's teaching him. Do you know that in society, when you start with, like, especially men, it's called toxic masculinity. So when you start teaching boys to man up, don't cry, blah, 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 right? So now they're withholding their emotions in all their life, right? This happened to me as a kid because I got taught that shit too, right? So you're withholding what happens? You become aggressive as you get older, right? You become nonchalant to feelings. You're not as sympathetic as you were. And you know what happens? You become very what's the word? Violent, right? Why do you think most like if a woman is killed, right? The first person they always look at is her boyfriend or her husband. It's the first person, right? If did you know that one of the most dangerous places for a woman to live is in her own household? Her own household, because most women get killed by their husbands or boyfriends. Most. If a woman's dead, it's probably the guy that did it. Guess who most men get killed by? Other men. So this shows this is a problem with how we're raising our men to suppress our feelings. So no, fucking fight with the father about that. Like, look, we got to teach him, man. Let's learn together because this is wrong. Teaching him not to cry. That's terrible. Crying is okay. Here's the crazy thing. I bet you if his father's into sports, okay? I bet you if he watches like football or basketball, when one of the teams loses in the championship, you know what them dudes is doing? They crying and they hugging each other. You know what I'm saying? I just watched my Chiefs beat the Ravens. Had them niggas on the sideline crying like a motherfucker. Okay? So it's okay to cry. And these are men, right? So express your feelings.
Yeah, very, very true. Alonna, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Did you want to come back
Yeah,
up?
you can add her in.
Because Facebook only allows me to have 3. For the next one like this, I'm gonna have to do like a panel.
Yeah, you can always do what's it called? Like conference calls or what's the other one?
That's true. Like, it's like I think also though our generation was different. I do teach my boys to express themselves. I let them like, what's wrong? Talk to me. What's going on? Because I do feel like even like not even just as a man. I'm not gonna say as a man. I feel like as a person, back then we couldn't talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't got time to hear this. So I feel like me now with all 3 of my kids, I do allow my kids to have the space to where we could talk about it. Now. I don't want to talk about it, but if you want your feelings and you want to get it out and express it, fine, cry it out. But I do. I want you to understand that you can win or lose. You win or lose. I don't want you just crying all the time, but I do want you to be able to express yourself in that way.
Right, don't be a cry babe. I get it. Yeah, I'm with that because some people are overly emotional, but you know what? That's genetic. That's again individualistic. But again, so here's another thing. It's very important. Is this? It's very, very important for any child, male or female, to have both of their parents present in their life because it's better for them to become more productive in society. Unfortunately, that's not for everybody. Okay, so again, men are very important assets to a child's development, but it's not just for boys; it's for girls as well.
Well, what
And just as women are just as important, right? So we are important, or you can even say a two-parent household, right? People that can give different perspectives, two-parent households. So again, it's not devaluing men if you can teach what we can teach, right? Nor is it devaluing women if we can teach what you can teach. We're not devalued. And I want to get that across, that it's very important that we have both parents in the household. That is very conducive to how the child develops as an adult. So if any man was out there thinking that I'm speaking just strictly down upon men, I'm not. Again, I'm a man, but I am also a feminist. You know what I mean? So because I understand the female perspective, and it's nothing wrong. Like we have, male privilege. It's just a fact, right? And once we start um, accepting that, then it'd be easier for us to move forward as just society in general, right? So again, like I can tell you about female experiences that I've never experienced, right? Because I listen, I learn, I talk to them, I hear them, I study it, I research it, psychology, all that kind of stuff. So I understand women experience. Now, I'm not saying that I can sympathize, I can empathize, but I mean, it's not saying that I've experienced it myself, but I can learn it. It's not difficult. Just listen. That's it.
And I want to get Alana back up here. She said she
All right.
take a, when this topic came up, I saw a lot of men that were saying no, but I also saw a lot of women that were saying no, and I was like, hmm.
Well, it's generally like, I mean, I have experienced women, a lot of women that said no too. Like I've had, discussions and arguments like this. One woman thought that by her raising her son, he's going to become feminine. And again, I was like, well, I was like, I used to ask this question all the time because we said, like, is femininity bad?
Right,
And they're like,
right.
no. I was like, then so if he is feminine, if you want to say that, because that's subjective. Femininity is subjective anyway. But if it's not bad, then what's the problem? So
Yeah.
she said she sent the request again.
Let me see. Let me go here. There we go. Approve. Boom. I don't know why it doesn't show me that.
Okay.
There we
What
go.
time is it? 4. Okay. I got to
4:30.
go to these Grammys parties.
Oh, you got Grammy stuff. All right. Okay. Alana, welcome back.
hello, hello, hello. Thank you.
Welcome back, Alana.
Hey,
Oh,
how you
What up? What up? What up?
don't you be chopping them down.
I ain't chopping nobody down. I've learned that it's better to because I had to learn stuff too and get out of my mindset as well. I used to believe a lot of the shit that you guys believed as well, so I had to relearn it as well. It wasn't just like something I came up with myself. Like I had to be taught to not think that way. So I think as my duty as a human being is if I learn and corrected myself, my job is now to teach other people to learn to correct themselves.
And we appreciate
Yeah. So
I still kind of have the same standpoint because I'm just always gonna go from my own personal experience because I can't speak for others. You know what I'm saying? And as Brian Jackson earlier, I don't have all of the research. I haven't sat and I haven't done those things. I haven't, studied the subject. I just was going off of my own experience as a mother with two teenage boys and things that I have been told about my sons by, like my father and things that like of that nature and by their own father. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I come from. But I hear you too on the part of a woman can learn these things because, as I said earlier, I have made sure to put my boys in male dominated things so that they can have that
influence around them, but I also was a part of it. Like, I started coaching my son in football. You know what I'm saying? I coached him from the time he was like 5 until maybe like around 2019 when I got pregnant with my twins. And I did those things because I wanted to make sure that I was learning as well as he was, and I was learning what I needed to do for him. No, I did not teach my 13-year-old how to pee. Not because I didn't know how to, but just because his brother took over that task himself. He tasked himself with how to teach his brother how to pee because I could do it. I have a penis. That just was his thought process at 5. You know, his brother was 2 and he's 5. He's like, I can teach him, Mom. I got it. You know, he's always been really responsible. But I don't believe in gender roles because there are things that I've had to do for myself as a single woman that they'll say a man is supposed to do. It doesn't bother me that I learned how to, you know, I went on YouTube. I learned how to fix my own radio, take the whole center console apart, fix my own radio. I learned how to do my rotors and my brakes myself, you know, rotate my tires and do that. Do I necessarily always want to do them? No. Is it helpful to have somebody who strength-wise, it's easier for them to do? Yes. So in that nature, yes. Are things that I would rather a male do for me, but it doesn't mean that I can't do them for myself. And it does not mean that that is a male's role specifically. It just means that he's better equipped strength-wise to do it for me. But I do feel like there are some things that my sons are going to lack because I don't know what it feels like to wake up as a man. I don't know what it feels like to walk through my day as a man. I don't know what it feels like to go to sleep as a man. I don't know any of those things. I don't know the inner workings or what you guys, you know, that those type of things. Like, I've had my father tell me that my 13-year-old is too mouthy. So he's like, yeah, no, he argues. He's too this chit and chat and going back and forth is too feminine. And I'm like,
Okay,
okay.
let's stop there. Just say, so again, he's using feminine as a pejorative. So that's his toxic masculinity. That man, he's using it. He's attributing arguing with femininity,
Mm-hmm.
which is bullshit. Because I argue all the fucking time, right? I was. Guess who argues mostly in this world? Lawyers. Guess who? Most of the men in this. Most of the lawyers are in this world. Men. Okay. Most people who are in the debate team, men. Okay, and these are all argumentative people. That's stupid. It's a again a misogynistic point of view. Now, 2, you're kind of contradicting yourself. You don't believe in gender roles. You can learn all these male dominated things. You can teach that, but then you still feel like you can't teach your boy to be a man. So that's kind of contradictory in its nature, right? You saying you don't know how it feels. Well, nobody's asking you to tell you how it feels. Nobody's saying teach how it feels, right? Right? Because guess what? It feels different. It feels different for every guy in this entire world. How Brian woke up today is totally different how I felt when I woke up today. And it has nothing to do with us being men. It's just individual human beings, right? I guarantee you that all women don't wake up feeling the fucking same.
No.
Okay? Right. So that's not a male thing. I don't know, I wake up to feel like a man. And guess what? A lot of men don't, because it's not a men thing. Right? That's not a thing. Okay? And arguing is not a feminine thing, right? And even if it was a feminine thing, right, which is not, to say that, well, I don't want, he's too mouthy, he's like he's feminine. Come on, bro, that's toxic. That's a toxic masculinity being subjected and projected onto you and the kid, right? So now, what is he going to do? Because it's part of his personality, who he is. Right? Who this kid is. He might become a lawyer one day, right? Or a president, a politician, based upon his skill to argue and to determine things or whatever, right? And you're going to limit that because you're like, well, don't do that because now you're like a girl, right? It's feminine.
Well, I actually countered that by letting him know that there are levels. This is an elder. When an elder tells you to do something, they don't want to hear, you know, too much. They want you to do what they say. So whereas he was telling him that was because he used the word bitch, where he was telling him
Right.
that moving like a bitch, I told my son that there are people that you can have a rebuttal with, and there are people that you can't. And your grandfather is somebody that, no, you cannot do that. And you have to know that if he tells you something, you got to pick and choose your battles. And that's what I've been teaching them. But I don't know. I feel like there are certain things that I, as a mother and a woman, I am not going to be able to
Give me an example.
my son. And
Give me an example.
I said it earlier. Just how to carry himself, because I've never had to carry myself as a male in society. I've never had to do that. I've never had to go outside myself.
That's ambiguous. That's like too vague. Give me an example.
Okay.
Of that.
It's like, as I'm going over and turning everything over in my head, I'm hearing you say that's a gender role that society places. This is stereotypical. This is toxic.
Yeah, you're experiencing cognitive dissonance right now.
Because it's I'm still going over the thought process of, okay, well, you're teaching him as from his father's opinion. You're teaching him this. That's not good. You know, you're teaching him that that's not good, when I thought I was just teaching them to be as much of a well-rounded individual as I could, because I didn't believe in stifling the emotions, because that was a problem with what I saw.
Right, but again, give me an example of what you cannot learn, because you're stagnant in your position, right? But then now you're contradicting yourself in that position, and on top of that, you can't even give an example, because you know that if you do try to give an example, it's going to be rebutted, and then you're going to have to do it. So do you remain in this position that you're in, or do you progress, change it, and move forward? Because a lot of the times when people do this, because your beliefs are part of who you are, right? It becomes a part of who you are. It's a part of who you are. So when somebody challenges your preconceived beliefs, right, it's like they're attacking you as a person. It's like I'm punching you in the face, right? It's an actual term for that, right? In psychology. And what you're experiencing right now is cognitive dissonance. You're having a conflict in with your belief with the facts that are presented to your belief that contradicts your beliefs. So that's what's occurring right now, right? But again, at some point you have to accept that, you know what, I'm fucking wrong, and I can do it, and then change, and then do it, and then now help your sons or whoever it is to become a better, productive human being. Because if the grandfather is saying these things to your son and you disagree, right, and now you're telling your son, well, you know, pick your battles, blah 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 blah. No, you personally, I would tell my son, like, look, your grandfather's wrong. Right? You shouldn't feel that way. Now, I'm not telling you to argue with them. Let him say it, whatever, because, you know, older people are there. They come from a different time and era, right? And they're just different, and they feel it disrespectful if a child, for whatever reason, decides to defend themselves, right? Right? So just be like, yo, you take it with a grain of salt. Let, you know, grandfather say it. I don't agree with it. This is what you should do, because you're the parent. He's not, right? So then you teach your son, like, no, that's right. Fuck, you can argue all you want, but try not to argue with grandfather, because, you know, he's sensitive. He don't like that, right? Or he's from a different era and time, and they don't really argue like that. And now you're teaching them, okay, yeah, you know what, you're right. Okay, cool. Because you do have to learn how to pick your battles in individual problems, right? Like, I'm an atheist, but I'm not going to go to fucking Saudi Arabia and start talking about how God doesn't exist, because I'll get fucking hung, right? Shot, killed. So pick your fucking battles. I'll do that shit online, okay? So the point remains is, I need you to name something that you cannot learn and then teach your son. Just give me one example. I don't need two. I just need one.
I cannot teach my sons how to carry themselves.
Okay, again, that's vague. So what does that mean? Like, give me an example of that, of carrying themselves.
And I do not, when it's a male dominated space, whether it's among friends, what have you, I cannot teach them the certain things that you as males have the camaraderie of. I couldn't even say it right. Camaraderie, yeah, or what have you. I can't teach him that, because I'm still always going to be a female in that space. I can't teach him.
Well, you do realize there's, again, like, again, you're arguing. It's like,
Well,
the person before you, it's cultural. That's cultural. How men interact in different spaces is different from different cultures, different eras and times, geographical locations. We don't act like how I act in the space with my African American friends, maybe a little bit different how I act at work with somebody else, maybe a little different how I'm in a different setting with more professionals, right? If I'm just, or if I'm just having fun, we partying, we drinking, we watching the game, I'm going to act different. But that has nothing to do with being a man, right? That is basically adjusting to your different environments, right? So it has nothing to do with being a man. And on top of that, you're still able to learn it. Because let's say you ask me, well, Kevin, how do you do this in this situation? I'm going to teach you. This is what I do as a man. And now you've learned it. And guess what you can do? You can pass that on to your son. So unless you're saying you're just unable to learn it if I teach you, unless you have like a learning deficiency to where you are unable to gain this knowledge that I'm telling you through words, right? Or examples, right? And you're just unable, it just can't compute. It's like, for whatever reason, your feminine side has a blocker on it, right? And it's rejecting everything that I say, then, which I highly doubt, then you can learn it and teach it.
Well, then let me ask you this, because I saw the question was posed before I came on. What is a man to you?
I already told you. So when I first started, a man is an adult human male.
That's it. That's it.
That's the actual definition. Like it's you can't even argue that. So now when you say what is being a man, that's different. So being a man is subjective. You're gonna, like I told you when I first started, you're gonna get 10 different answers from 10 different people. You get 100 different answers from 100 different people. That's all subjective. So you can have your perspective of what being a man is, and I can have mine. So my example again was, if I don't know how to play any sports, I'm not athletic at all, right? But I'm fucking argumentative. I'm in the debate club, right? I can debate my ass off, okay? And I like to dance, right? Let's say I'm a dancer. I want to be a fucking ballerina, okay? And then I grow up and I become a male nurse, okay? But I don't play any sports. I'm not into that shit, whatever, right? I don't even drink beer. I drink wine, right? And I like the color pink. Fucking love it, right? Am I not a man at this point? Or am I not being a man? Because again, remember what we said, the color pink was actually originally masculine, right? Dresses were worn throughout time by men. Most of the world, skirts are for both sexes, right? They're unisexual. So again, I'm asking you, am I not being a man anymore?
No, you are.
Okay, so then again, so when we ask that question, what is being a man? There's no one size fits all. There's no concrete answer to that because it's subjective. That's like asking me what the best color is. Right? I'm going to say blue. You might say purple. Some motherfuckers say gold. Some people say magenta. And women, you guys know like thousands of different colors probably we never even fucking heard of and shit. That's pastel colors. Like we don't fucking know that shit. So again, it's all subjective. But my question still remains, because are you going to stay stagnant in your position? What can you are unable to learn? So listen to that question again. What are you unable to learn that it is to be a man? You're just utterly unable, and then you cannot pass that knowledge upon your child, your son.
The only knowledge that I cannot pass on is what it is like to physically be inside the male's body. Other than that, you got me.
Physically, that's individualistic. That has nothing to do with being a man. So how it is to be in my body is totally different how it is to be in Brian's body and every man on this post. Every man's body. Yeah. So you can't tell me as a woman how Tracy it is to be in her body, because you're not in her body. Guess whose body you're in? Yours.
But I can understand things about her, how she may feel on her menstrual that you may not understand. You may have an idea of it. You may have an idea of it because you spoke to women, you learned their experiences, you know how to sympathize.
And absolutely understand it. Like I can absolutely understand it. Understanding is comprehending what is being told, and realizing and being able to convey that information again. Like again, most a lot of gynecologists are men.
What it feels like. You'll never know what it physically feels
Yeah,
like to have those.
you can tell me how it feels. This is how it feels, Kevin.
You'll never know how it is to go through everything. You'll never know how it is to go to the
Yes,
bathroom.
you can tell me. I know how it is because you can tell me. And guess what? It's different for each woman. It's different for women too. Some women have their menstrual cycle for 1 day, and some have for 7. Some have it for 4. Some get extreme cramps. Some don't. Some feel bloated. Right? Some have mood changes. How the fuck do I know all this? Wow, because women told me because I fucking learned it. Right? But your experience with menstrual cycles isn't the same as other women's.
But that's still something you're only gonna know from the outside looking in.
Right.
That's it.
What I'm saying is your menstrual cycle, when you have one, do you think your menstrual cycle is the same as every other woman's menstrual cycle in this world? Okay, then that means that it's individualistic. It has nothing to do with just you being a female.
Still another woman experiencing it, going through it, dealing with
what I'm asking you is, what does her being a woman have to do with the difference between her experiences? Because you're not experiencing what she is.
No, I'm
Whether
not.
you're okay, so you being a woman is not contingent upon that at all. So we can erase you being a woman now because it's no bearing on that. That becomes an individualistic thing. You're talking about person to person basis. How, again, I understand what it feels like to be bloated. You know why? Because I've been bloated,
Which is
right?
understandable.
I've understood. Okay, so when a woman says I'm on my menstrual cycle and I feel bloated, I fucking understand it. It's really simple. It's not something that is complicated. This is not, fucking, astrophysics. You know what I'm saying? It's really easy to understand. It's not difficult. I have cramps. Guess what? I've had cramps before too. I know what pain feels like. So I can empathize with that. So you telling me that I can't understand how a woman feels on her menstrual cycle is asinine. I can understand it.
Well,
that doesn't mean I've gone through it.
Well, let me interject here. I kind of want to give Alana a perspective on how it feels to wake up as a man, right? And I want to ask you, Kevin, how it feels to wake up as a man, because I don't even know if there's a difference in waking up as a man versus waking up as a woman, right? Like when I wake up, I wake up. There's nothing to waking up except for.
Oh, well, you can have an erection.
I mean, well,
some men wake up with erections.
That's what I meant without being explicit.
Right.
But that's fine. Then you ask me, and I can tell you, and you can learn it. You can pass it along. Here's the thing: anything that I can say to my son, you can say as well. Anything. How I feel with the erection, he cannot feel that same thing. He's a different person, right? I can tell him how I feel, right, with that erection, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to feel the same way. Just like you can tell me how you feel on your menstrual cycle, but that doesn't necessarily mean your daughter's going to feel the same way or another woman feels the same way. It's individualistic, right? So again, I can still understand it. I know what pain is, right? On their menstrual cycle, I can understand. I can pass that information along just like you can. If me and you were sitting with my daughter and she was like, "Oh, can you tell me what it is?" Like, I'm asking you as my daughter now, right? I'm asking you. Okay. Can you tell me what it is to be on a menstrual cycle? How would you explain that to her?
I would have to tell her that, first and foremost, some people feel gassy. Some people experience extreme cramps. Some people don't. Some people have a heavy flow. Some people have a lighter.
Right. Okay. So then I can say some people feel gassy. Some people have a heavy flow. Some people. So we're exactly saying the exact same thing.
Right. But I'm coming from an inner experience.
Whether you're coming from no, because you're not coming, because you don't feel all those things as a person. You know what other women feel too. Again, you telling her, passing that information, and I'm passing the exact same information to her, doesn't change. It's the exact same thing. How you felt, you cannot make her feel how you felt. That's individualistic. That's a personal thing. You can't you can't share, you can't pass your feelings on to her. You can't say, well, this is what I felt here. Take it. I'm a woman. You're a woman. Now you can, here's my feelings. Boom. Oh, it's like you're magically passing it along. No, all you're doing is passing information verbally. Guess what I'm doing? I'm passing information verbally.
But
That's it.
then,
There's no magic to that. There's no magical connection that you have that you can just pass on like through
but
magic to another woman.
there's a difference between knowing something because you're learning that something, and there's a difference between knowing it because this is something you experience yourself and this is your own knowledge.
I agree.
My mother didn't teach me what it was to have a period. My mother didn't teach me those things. I learned them on my own. So I know through my experience that I'm going to treat my daughters differently. I'm going to make sure they know. I'm going to make sure it's not just, oh, here's a book, but it's still a difference between her and I having these conversations and her and her father having these conversations, because at the end of the day, Daddy, you're never going to experience what I'm experiencing. It's whether or not mommy's cycle is 2 weeks long or hers is a day, she's still experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing. So yes, you can tell me from a knowledgeable standpoint, but you can't tell me from an inner experience standpoint.
But what I'm asking you is this: how when she is receptive to that information, right? She's receiving that information that we are both passing along. The only difference is you feel you can, if you guys both have cramps and she's cramping, you're cramping, you're telling, okay, yeah, I felt that too. Then you have a personal, I would say, connection on each other because now you guys are both experiencing this, right?
Right.
But her receiving the information is no different than me telling her. She's still receiving the information. So it doesn't make her like, it isn't, if I tell her, it's not like all of a sudden she's going to feel her cramps differently than if you told her. Her cramps are still going to be there.
Yeah.
So you're just explaining that, just like I'm explaining it. We're still passing that knowledge along. That's it. At the end of the day, you're still passing it. Again, you cannot pass your feelings on to her. You can't pass your cramps on to her. What if she doesn't have cramps? Or matter of fact, what if you don't have cramps, but she does? How is you, a woman, going to explain that to her? You can't, because you never experienced it. Because some women haven't. So you saying that only certain women can teach certain girls certain things based upon their experiences? Because that's kind of wild too.
No.
Because again, women have different experiences with their menstrual cycles.
No.
So unless you take every woman who gets bloated and they can only pass that knowledge along to girls who are going to get bloated, and then every woman who has cramps, they can only pass that along because of their uterus and whatever. They can only pass it. No, I mean, it's absolutely, you're still receiving the information. I'm still
Yeah.
teaching you. You're still learning, and I'm still passing that information along.
It's okay, but it's like let's take it out of menstrual. Let's take it.
Okay.
I can tell.
Give me another example.
I can tell my son anything that I've learned about a war. I can tell him anything I've learned about how to load this gun. I can tell him all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a difference from him learning from somebody who's actually been through it, say my grandfather. Because there are things my grandfather has tasted, smelled, full-on experience of being in that moment that I can never convey to him because I was not in that moment. Yes, I can tell you about the tanks. Yes, I can tell you about the guns and how heavy, but I cannot convey the smell of the gunpowder. I cannot convey the fear. I cannot convey none of those things because I did not experience them.
Okay, again, this perception that people have, like, you, in order to be able to pass this knowledge on, you had to experience it, is wild to me. It's wild, right? So prior to people landing on the moon or even going across country and going to like China or something, these people never been there, but they was told, oh, this is what it's going to feel like, this is what it's going to be, right? Anti-gravity, blah 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 blah, right? So they never experienced it, but they understand they can pass it along. When people did, it was like, yeah, it felt just like that. Okay. So this narrative that in order for me to tell you this, I had to experience it, is wild. Because if your grandfather experienced it on how the gun smelled, the fear, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so say he experienced that. Then he tells you how he felt. He tells you what the gunpowder smelled like. He tells you everything that he went through, from his emotional distress to his physical distress to his mental distress, and he explains that to you, and he passes that along to you. Now, if you learn it, all you're doing is taking the exact same thing he could have told your son and telling him yourself.
But I
There's
feel like,
no,
but I still feel like,
he's
but I
still going to
feel
receive
like,
that
right,
information regardless.
still feel like the information is going to be incomplete because there is only an idea in my mind of what he's telling me. There are things that he's going to be able to tell my son way better than I can, reiterating a story. He's going to be able to tell my son first person knowledge where I'm going through second person knowledge or even a third person knowledge. And as things go, things are lost, things are removed, all those things. So when it comes to stuff like that, first person knowledge is better than, oh, I told your mother this,
Okay,
and now your
so
mother telling you.
now you're arguing a different perspective. Now your argument has
No,
changed. So
I'm
now
saying
your argument is this. Your
that
argument
first
isn't
is
your argument isn't that you can't teach. Your argument it is who's better at who's better suited to teach. That's a different argument.
I said,
You're now you've changed your argument because again you do agree that you can teach that, correct? Are we in agreement of that?
yes, I can
Okay, cool.
tell him.
So now we agree that we can teach that. Now, if this person better suited and he can explain it a little more in detail because he's experienced, he has a knowledge, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely, surely. Let's go with that, right? But that doesn't mean you can't teach it. It just means that maybe they're just a little bit better, easier. If a woman taught my daughter about a menstrual cycle and I change her, she's probably because she's experienced it, she's done it, she's probably a little bit more accurate than me, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm unable to teach her that.
No,
That doesn't excuse me. Okay, so again, the conversation is, can a woman teach a boy to be a man? Right? The conversation isn't who's better at teaching a boy to be a man or woman. We didn't say that. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, can a woman teach a boy to be a man? Now, again, you're nitpicking at individualistic things that are personal for each man or personal for each woman in order to incorporate your narrative to make it right. You're like nitpicking at it. Okay, well, this over here and this over here. It's like you have to search for things in order to fit your narrative.
I've never changed my standpoint.
Okay. So again, are you saying that you're unable as a woman to teach a boy how to be a man? Is that what you're saying?
I can only teach him what my idea of a man is, but I cannot teach him how to carry himself as a man because I've never carried myself as a man. I can teach him my idea, what I assume, what I think, what I would want, but it's up to him and those around him who are males to fill in the blanks that I cannot fill in for him.
Okay, so are you saying that your idea of being a man, you can't learn from a man? Can a man tell you what it is to be a man?
I mean, Brian just tried.
No, I'm asking you. Can a man tell you what it is to be a man?
Yeah, I've never had anybody.
Are you able to learn that from the man that's telling you that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're receptive of that. You can comprehend it. You can learn it. So now you know what it is.
But there's still
you don't have an idea anymore.
There's still so many nuances of what it means to be a man that
that's my entire point. Being a man is subjective. It's individualistic. It's so again, what my question to you is you can learn what it is to be a man from thousands of different men, right? You can learn it from me, you can learn it from Brian, you can learn it from Huey, you can learn it from Jason, you can learn it from fucking Malcolm X, whatever, right? You can learn it from any man. You can learn it. And you've already know that. So we agree with that. You're receptive, you can comprehend it, you can retain that knowledge. Now, are you saying by retaining the knowledge of what you've learned, you're unable to be able to take that knowledge that you've learned and pass it on to your son?
I'm saying my knowledge will always be incomplete in some way, shape, or form. There's always going to be some building blocks that are going to be missing.
So then that's a personal problem then. That becomes a personal problem. So that becomes because you cannot retain knowledge fully because some of your knowledge is incomplete. That's just you as an individual.
There's
Some people can retain knowledge and have it pretty
there's things
cool.
things that we can have a conversation about. There's things that, but you're not. There's going to be a bunch that you're not going to tell me because it's your experience. You're not going to tell me everything.
Go ahead, Brian.
I got something I wanted to say, and
that's weird.
It's based off of kind of like Kevin's right, and here's the thing: me being a man is subjective, right? Not physically, right? But let's just say this: there are certain things. How you said that there are certain aspects, there are certain nuances, there are certain right. Like even for me, if I tell a woman I want to go 50-50, some woman will say that I'm not a man. If I decide that I want to do X, Y, and Z outside of what her norms are for a man, then she will consider me also not a man. So it's not that whatever you're saying is like you're always going to learn different things about manhood, just like I will. Whatever I might do as a man, I might talk to Kevin. He'd be like, "Oh no, I do this." So what really like you already agreed that you can teach a boy how to be a man. Just so you know, you've already. so
You've agreed to that, and that's the thing because you keep contradicting yourself and stepping back. Take out being a man. Take out being a man. Take out all this. Are you able to retain knowledge from a man onto you? Yes, you agree with that. Now you're saying, well, I might have blocks, blah blah blah. Fine, go back and learn some more, and then fill those blocks in because you're able to do it. What I'm saying is you can learn that, right, and then you can pass that knowledge on. But again, even with that being said, if we all know it's subjective, it doesn't matter anyway because it's subjective. So again, so at the end of it, let's say you take the knowledge that you learn, and let's say you miss some things. Let's say you miss 100 things out of 1,000 that was told, but you still pass that knowledge on to your son. Your son grows up, he's a man. Now, he's an adult human being. Is he not a man anymore because you missed 100 things? And he didn't learn that from another man? Because now, again, remember, we're being subjective. So what is being a man? I would say he is a man. Are you saying he's not? What if 10 men say, oh, he's a man? Does that now he becomes a man? Like, again, being a man, subjective. But what everyone is, what the argument is unless you have a learning deficiency to where you cannot retain knowledge from men for whatever reason because you're a female, right? Then you can teach a boy to be a man. That's it. It's no other argument. Like, and I tried to take examples, and you had to search. You was like searching, like, fuck, what kind of example can I come up with? And I was only asking for one. So if you let's say you were right on that one example that you couldn't teach that one thing to the boy, and he couldn't learn that one thing from you, but you can teach him 100 other things about being a man. Is he no longer a man? Because he didn't learn that one thing that you couldn't teach him. Because he doesn't know how it feels to wake up to be a man, whatever that is. I don't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's not like being a man is me saying, because now you're basing it upon feelings. So it's like, well, this is how it feels to pee through a penis. It's not being a man. That's I don't even, who teaches their son that, right? Like what man goes, well, hey son, you push penis is gonna feel warm, sometimes tingly, and it's gonna shoot out, and no one teaches because that's not about being a man. He's gonna feel it anyway.
I think
right?
I think this is I think women have overcomplicated what it is to be a man. Like honestly, when
but to touch on your point though, Brian, I don't feel like you going 50-50 makes you less of a man. I don't feel that because that is a construct of society. That's something society has passed down. Like I was told that me doing what I did for a man, car, those things made him less of a man.
Right.
That.
Oh my God, you're with us. Now you're here. Exactly. That you're making our point for us. Exactly right. So now, other people, that's not being a man. To you, it is being a man. But you're a woman saying it.
Yeah.
So who's right? Because me and him agree with you.
But off of me being a woman, I don't feel like I can fill in all the blanks for my son.
What
I don't feel like I.
blanks? What blanks? Tell me what blanks you have. I can tell you. I can fill them in for you. And I'm going to tell you directly, and then you can tell your son. Do you
I
understand
don't
the
blanks
position that you're putting yourself
I
in right
have not
now? It's like this.
gone through life as a man. I have not gone through life as a man. I'm not gonna know.
You don't
what
have to. Here's the thing. Do you think that every man in this world has gone through the exact same thing as another man?
No, that's not what.
Okay, cool. So then
I'm saying.
that man over there, I haven't experienced. So then
I'm
you have an experience with
as a
me and you
woman.
both.
Are,
What I'm saying is me and you both have an experience
I-
with these other men experience.
I'm saying my experiences as a woman are different than yours because I am a woman.
Your experience
Are
as a
men.
woman is different. Your experience as a woman is different from other women's as well.
No,
This is yes. This unless you take a minute small of things, and even some of those are different from woman to woman. You know what I'm saying? Some women, when they breastfeed, some women can't produce milk. Some women produce a lot of milk. Some women's breasts, some women get really big and when they get pregnant. Some women don't gain any weight. Okay, these are individualistic things, right? And again, so as just because like you as a woman, let's say you did get pregnant and you just gained a gang of weight, and there's another woman who didn't gain a lot of weight, right? Now, there's a little girl who's asking, well, what is it like being pregnant? Well, you had two different experiences. You had y'all both women. So guess what? I can learn about y'all different experiences and tell her, well, it's all dependent upon you. But this is what I've learned of how it is, because you can learn from the other woman's perspective, can't you? So our learning ability isn't contingent upon our biological sex. That's a fact. Your biological sex doesn't prohibit you from learning.
Look, I would say this: ask someone how it feels to get a tattoo, and you have exactly what it is to be a man. Because when I got my first tattoo, before I got to ask somebody, how does it feel to get a tattoo, and they told me trust me, I know. And I went and I got my tattoo based on that, and I was like, hold up, this is different. If you
right, totally different. It's individual. You're giving individualistic examples, which are anecdotal. So again, so what we were trying to explain earlier along is when you do anecdotes. Anecdotal means personal experiences, right? Personal experiences. Guess what? What's the key word there?
personal.
Personal. So they're personal experiences. That means it's an individual. It's based upon you as an individual person. That's it.
And I led with that. And I let you know that I can only speak from experience, a personal experience.
Right. And that's an anecdotal. So that would be an anecdotal fallacy. So now you're in a fallacious argument. Your argument is fallacious, and it can be discounted and invalid, and it becomes invalid because anecdotal experiences is not validated or justifiable for argument against actual data and real scientific research and actual facts. So fact is that single women have raised boys to be men. We gave examples. Fact is that women can retain knowledge and pass that knowledge upon to other individuals, men and boys and girls, females and males, right? So now if the only thing you have left is, well, me personally, well then you put yourself into a fallacy. But you haven't even you're not even saying that, because you're saying, oh yeah, I can learn it. It's just now it's stubbornness. It's like, I don't want to say that I'm wrong. I don't want to say it because, well, I'm wrong. You don't want to say it, right? And we get it. But you're wrong. At this point, you're absolutely 100% wrong.
I still feel my knowledge will be incomplete because I am not a man.
What is incomplete? Again, so you're not. Again, we agree that it's subjective. So if it's subjective, there's no completion to it.
and Alana, if your knowledge is incomplete, then so would mine.
Everybody's knowledge be incomplete.
Yeah, here's the thing: you're already raising your son to be a man. You're already doing that just by giving him the basics. If you're teaching your daughter whatever you're teaching her, I'm sure you're not switching it. I'm sure you're not saying, okay, daughter, be a good person. Don't hit people, but keep your hands to yourselves. Always say things, whatever you're teaching. I'm sure you're not switching and saying, okay, now, son, I know I told her this, but you're do this. I know you're not doing that. Teaching someone morals, values, whatever. It's the same from man to woman. It just because you are a woman teaching a boy does not mean that I'm going to get a boy and teach him something completely different. Maybe it could be the same, but it doesn't differ as far as like what this boy now is. Well, as soon as he turns 18, he's a man, right? Here's the thing. A man is a man regardless of what he's taught and what he wears,
Right.
what he grew,
How he acts,
what
he does.
Yeah, we're all. He's a man.
Absolutely no bearing on actually being a man, because now or well, becoming a man, I guess, because being a man is we're saying it in the context of societal influence of what, again, society thinks a man is, but it differs. What a man is in America might be different what a man is in Japan or Saudi Arabia or fucking, Antarctica, whatever, Alaska, whatever, right? Being that man is different. So you keep saying I have gaps in it and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't make any sense. Gaps of what? Gaps of what you didn't learn. Well, how? That makes absolutely. Then I have gaps, and so does Brian, and so does your baby daddy, and any other nigga, your grandfather, your brother, your uncles, whoever. They're gonna have gaps too, per se, unless they just retain every single thing there is to be a man from every single man in this world, from the entirety of history and every culture. Then they have gaps as well. Which again, and on top of that, they're always gonna have gaps because there couldn't be somebody born tomorrow that has a totally different view of what it is to be a man, and he's not wrong either, because nobody's right and nobody's wrong because it's subjective. If I ask you again, what's the best color there is, and you tell me purple, and I say it's yellow, well, who's right? Nobody, because it's subjective. To you, this is what the best color is, and to me, that's what the best color is, and that's exactly what being a man is.
So being a man is subjective.
Absolutely. It's societal influence. That's it. Again, like I said, would you consider a boy who cannot play any sports when he becomes a man not a man?
No.
Okay. Well, some people disbelieve that. Like you, what about the guys from back in the day who, they worked in like the fucking coal mines and machineries, and they know how to change tires and shit like that. So what if a guy grew up and he didn't know shit about cars and how to fix cars and change tires? Is he no longer a man?
No.
Okay. You see where I'm getting at? Like, I can ask you 1,000 different things and you're always going to say no. Because there's going to be 1,000 different things I can name. But guess what? These are things that are considered being a man. Changing tires. You know what I'm saying? Being able to build shit.
Correct.
Fix things around the house. Can you drive a stick shift? Weird shit like that. It's weird, right? It's because it's contingent upon what we say it is, what society says it is. So yes, it's absolutely subjective.
Yeah, and
Anybody can get on here right now. Any guy can get on here and say what he feels it is to be a man, and he would be right, and I can disagree with him, and I would be right. There's nobody that can come on here today, yesterday, tomorrow, they can tell me what it is to be a man, and he's 100% right and I'm 100% wrong, because it's all subjective. Other than the one objective thing, being a man is an adult human male. That is the only thing that they cannot argue against. That is objective truth.
yeah, I was gonna say too about how society works, or how it changes with the era. Imagine you have all the men from the firefighters, the police, your uncles, your cousins, your grandfather, right? And they all come around and they all teach your son, right now, this is how it is to be a man. Boom, and you feel comfortable. He's gotten all this knowledge from all these stand-up guys, and he grows to be at least 50 years old. What if it changes then? Is he now in this era no longer a man? He's a man in 2024, and 2045 is here now, and now men do other things, and it's like, okay, well, now is he not a man? He got all this information from all these men that you trusted to be a man because they did everything that you thought a man should do, and they taught him this. They said, yeah, this is it. And he goes, all right, I got it, I'm a man now. And then he goes right into 2045, and it's like, oh, well, damn, all these nuances, all these other things, I'm no longer a man. Would you agree that now,
Yeah.
since society, is he no longer a man?
Perfect example is this.
What he does.
There's biological constructs and there's societal constructs. Okay, biological constructs are objective. Societal constructs are subjective. Societal constructs are like money, right? And we place value on money. And guess what? Value of money changes, right? It changes from geographical location, right? It changes from era and time. The dollar's worth less than it was 50 years ago, yada, yada, and it fluctuates, blah, blah, blah. We have cryptocurrency now, da, 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 right? That's a societal construct, right? And it's based upon what we as humans in society and government say it is, okay? That's what being a man is. Societal construct, right? Biological construct is being an adult human male, right? He has, and even that gets murky, right? Because then you can have the chromosomes, like XY chromosomes, right? That's a man. But then some people have XYY or XXY, right? You know what I'm saying? Even that gets a little murky on the biological thing. But it is still more objective truth than it is societal truth. So you keep saying gaps. I have these gaps. Gaps of what?
I'm saying
Because even
I can teach him to be honest. I can teach
that's
him.
a good.
I can.
Then you're teaching him to be a good human.
I can teach him to be somebody who is considerate. I can teach him to be somebody who is protective. I can teach him to be somebody who values knowledge. I can teach him all those things.
Great.
I can teach him that.
Yes. And then when he grows up, into an adult male, and he has all those characteristics, would you consider him being a man?
Yes.
Then you just taught your son how to be a man.
You did it. Well done.
Congratulations. You're a great mother.
I was waiting on you to realize that, again, like you're already teaching your son to be a man. As long as you done that, was it.
You can teach him to be a horrible person with bad morals, and he'll still be a man. He'll just be a bad human being, maybe per se. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going from where there's been, holes poked in how I've been as a mother. And again, I've been a single mother of these boys since they were 5 and 2. So I'm going off of the holes that men, their father, my father, have poked in the teachings that I have.
Right.
Not necessarily society, because I don't give a fuck what society says.
Well,
I don't tell them.
Well, what do you think? What do you think they get their ideas from? Society.
Yeah.
It's a societal construct. That's what they get the ideas from. I guarantee you that if me and your father, me and your grandfather or whoever had a discussion on what it is to being a man, we would have totally different perspectives.
Yeah,
I guarantee you that.
Because society will tell a man he's not a man until he hitting all the hoes.
Right. You're agreeing with us now. You're actually in agreement, and you're starting to realize it. Again, if I had that discussion with them, they're poking holes in it, and I might be like filling that hole like, oh, you're right. I like the way you're raising your son. Raise him like that. That's great. You're raising him to be a productive fucking human being. Because again, my point being was when you suppress feelings, you know what I'm saying? When you teach men this toxic masculinity of you gotta, in order to be a great man, you gotta fuck all these women and be a player and don't let no bitch tell you shit, don't cry, and niggas always say shit like don't tell a woman how you feel, she use it to get you, and all this machoism that we have, right? It's total machoism, right? And no, fuck that. Teach your son how to express his feelings. When you want to cry, cry. You want to be happy, smile.
That raises emotionally stagnated men, and that's why you have so many men who have issues. But
I know, I've already said that too. You're agreeing with us 100%.
Then I'm teaching him to be a good person, not necessarily.
That's a man. When he gets, again, you already answered that question. When he becomes an adult human male and he's a good person, he becomes a man, correct? Are you saying that if he doesn't learn whatever you're the toxic masculinity, and it's toxic that your grandfather, your baby daddy's trying to teach him that he's then not going to be a man. No, you don't agree with that. You've already said that you've already agreed with it. You've already been in agreement with this entire time. Just, you're just saying that you're not. You've already agreed with this. Like, it's not.
Yeah, and I would say that too, all of the things that you just named is crazy because when I'm on these dating apps, guess what the women say they want in a man? All the shit that you already just said that you were teaching your son to be.
Mm, mm.
So
You listen to a lot of women. Like, I just want a man that's able to listen to me. I want a man that's able to understand what the fuck I'm coming from, right? Like, matter of fact, it's so much to the point where if I say I understand where a woman's coming from, and I talk about how toxic masculinity exists and what men do, I automatically get, there's two things that I get from a lot of men. One, they think I'm pandering for pussy, which fortunately for myself, I don't have to do, right?
Right.
Or two, I'm a simp, right?
Oh.
These are the two things that occur, right? But that's because they they have no other argument to counter what we're saying. So it's like, I have to attack you as a person. I have to attack you as an individual because, I mean, shit, nigga, you making sense. Well, fuck you. You're pandering for pussy. No, there's a difference between pandering. Like, Derek Jackson pandered for pussy, right? Like, that's what he did, right? And it's a lot of people out there that pander for pussy, right? Me, I'm using actual. This is facts. Like, you can't deny facts, and it's a factual, right? I haven't placed my opinion. I haven't even told you what being a man is to me, right? I haven't given that perspective at all this entire conversation. So,
Yeah.
right? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I tell you. It's irrelevant because it's subjective. That's like me arguing with you all day why the color blue is the best color. You're like, no, that's a stupid argument. Well, look at the sky. The sky is blue and it reflects, and then you got the ocean blue, and Crips are blue. I like Crips. I'm really not fuck with no Bloods. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like me. It's like we're arguing over some dumb shit. It's subjective, right? That makes absolutely no sense to argue that, right? And you're like, no, red, because fire's hot, right? And can even boil water, and it's a terrible argument, right? If two people are literally trying to make their points on some opinions like that, it's just they're subjective truths. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Just, we're not gonna argue over that shit.
So in my experience of being a mother to these boys up to the point of 15 and 13, I have been teaching them to be men. That is your opinion.
No. Here's the thing. I don't even say that. I don't say you're teaching them to be men. You're just teaching them to be productive human beings that will eventually turn into men, and then they will be men. It's not a men thing that you're teaching them, because you can teach that same thing to women, and then those same characteristics will be in a woman. They're just being adult. They're just now adults. So you teach them to be productive human beings or whatever, and even that, to an extent, is fucking subjective. Morals and all that kind of stuff is all subjective. It's what you believe is right for your kid, right? So, or the best avenue for them to take. But when he becomes an adult human male, he is a man. And even if he doesn't have the characteristics of machoism and what society says to an extent of what a man is, it doesn't make him any less of a man. Because, like I said, if he doesn't know how to change a tire, you already agreed. That doesn't make him less of a man. But some men think that, hey man, how you know how to change no tire? You ain't no real man. You've heard people say that all the time, right? Why ain't you in no sports? You don't watch no sports? Like, if your son want to be a ballerina and dance because he loves that shit, people look down upon him like, oh, that's fucking feminine. That's not, because he wants to dance. You know what I mean? Like, that's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and we gotta veer off of that machoism bullshit. That's all it is machoism bullshit. It's toxic masculinity. So let's veer away from teaching your son toxic masculinity, because the key word there is toxic. Men hate hearing that fucking term. I'm not saying masculinity is toxic. I'm saying there's toxic masculinity. It's a difference. There's masculinity, then there's toxic masculinity. Some masculinity is good. Some masculinity is we teach is toxic. Like, don't cry. Like if a kid he falls off his bike and fucking scratches his leg up and he's bleeding, you're like, hey, man up. Fucking crying and shit. That makes that what? No, nigga, he's hurt. Get him a Band-Aid, put some fucking alcohol or peroxide on it, patch it up.
Don't coddle him. No, don't do that.
Right. See, that's toxic masculinity, which then creates men suppressing their feelings, which then creates violent men. Again, my point being back to that is most dangerous place for a woman to be, one of them, and you can look this up, this is an actual stat, is in her own home due to men being violent against women. Yes, women commit as much domestic violence towards men as men towards women, right? But men are way more violent. Like, men are like, so there's domestic violence, like a woman might smack them, hit them, throw stuff at them, but a nigga might choke her out, kill her, stab her, shoot her, beat her to death, bruise her eye, break her bones, break her, you know what I'm saying? Put her in a hospital, threaten her family, kill the kids. These are things that a lot of men do. It's a male-dominated thing. It's not even close, right? I think maybe 5-10% of women do it. Like 80 of those cases, like 80-90% men, right? And then on top of that, so most women who are murdered and killed by men. Most men who are murdered and killed are killed by men. What's the common denominator there? Men. Because we teach men we're breeding men to be violent. And that ain't being a man.
I mean, I would say that is very manly.
Right. That's very manly, right? Fight and fucking, bro. I'll be honest with you. As I grow up, I used to fight a lot. Like, I used to get in a lot of fights because that's what I was taught. Like, my dad used to say, I got into boxing when I was a kid. They put me in martial arts, all this different types of things. Like, and so how I used to solve my problems was fighting all the time. I used to fight a lot, right? A lot. I had a lot of fights growing up, which is fucking stupid now as an adult. And I, even till this day, like, I try to, especially online, I control myself a lot better. I don't get into arguments. I don't have this machoism. I don't talk shit. People talk shit to me all the time, and I kind of like laugh. It's funny to me, but I don't talk shit back, right? But that's online. Generally, like, if I'm on a basketball court and people are like being a little too aggressive or talk shit back, and I'll be like, I almost get into fights, then I have to catch myself. I'm 43 years old. I'm too old to be out there fighting. You see what I'm saying? So I got a career. I got kids. I got money and shit I can lose, which is stupid. But again, that's that. I was instilled with that machoism as a child, and it's still hard for me to break.
But that doesn't make you less of a man. You are.
No, I'm not saying it makes me less of a man. What I'm saying is what I was taught from my dad. You know what I mean? Like, even my sister, like, shit, my sister fought probably just as much as me, if not more. It's just how we were taught as, growing up. Like, your sister get in a fight, we all fight. And that's just how we grew up. You know what I mean? But again, that was mainly taught by my dad, not my mom. My dad was teaching us that shit. So again, that's just. But again, it's like breaking that mold. Like, I used to get spanked as a kid, like, a lot. I got my ass beat, right? Probably more than any other kid, any of my brothers and sisters. I got my ass beat. And when I had my daughter, I spanked her up until she was about 3 years old, and then I corrected myself because I learned that that's wrong. It's counterproductive as a parent, and I don't hit my kid anymore. Matter of fact, my daughter's 14, and she still doesn't believe that I used to hit her. She thinks I'm lying. She thinks I joke because it's been that long since she doesn't even remember the shit. I don't. So again, this is societal norms. It's taught. It's passed along. It becomes fucking abusive, and it's like circular, and it just keeps coming back around until you break it. And I broke it.
So all this time, I was just teaching him to be a good person. Got it.
Right. Who's going to become a man, like as an actual man. This person is going to become a man eventually. You know what I'm saying? When they become an adult. And when he becomes an adult male, he's a man. And everything that he'll be doing is doing as a man.
So then I change my standpoint. A woman can teach a young boy how to be a man.
Yes. And yeah, and keep teaching them good shit.